I am Nat. Up on the screen it says Nat's Circle of Code Mindfulness, but I'm going to spoil the twist at the end of the presentation that we're not actually going to talk about that. We'll get to why it exists. Yeah. So in 2012 I said, hey, like, I'm going to make a video game, and then that was hard. But I was learning the X and A framework, and like I could render sprites, and I could figure out like, oh, in terms of object-oriented programming that I've learned in school, I can make my game entities inherit from other entities and not duplicate functionality, but then things started to get really messy. And then a friend of mine who was a better programmer came along and said, have you tried making games with a component-oriented architecture? Which, anyone who hasn't heard of that, that's sort of what Unity uses, and it is a much more flexible architecture than object-oriented for game development. And that was a really amazing thing, and if I hadn't learned that, I would have gotten stuck and never made a game. So I learned to find the right tools for the job and to ask for help, and that I am a dummy. And in 2013, I said, okay, let's make a space shooter, and Will said, what features? And I said, all of them. And then Will was like, we should write a design doc, and I was like, okay, I've written them all out, but how am I going to implement all these? And Will was like, we'll work together as a space team. We didn't know there was a game called Space Team, so we were making a space game calling ourselves Space Team the whole time. But so we actually worked together, managed to get our game shipped onto the Xbox Live Indie Games channel. That happened in 2013, and so I learned that you can only be ambitious if you are responsible about your scoping, and I also learned that I'm a dummy and I should ask for help. So observation, I learned the same lesson over and over again. In 2014, I said I want to make a horror game, and there were a lot of reasons why I couldn't do that by myself. I went online and saw that there was a composer named Mark Sparling who wanted to start doing game jams. And I said, hey, would you like to make a horror game with me? My brother said, I have a friend who wants to do art, but she only does static images, she doesn't do animation. And I was like, okay, we can make a visual novel. And I wrote the script and had a lot of art that needed to go into it. And so to compensate for that, half of the art in the game is ASCII art that I made. And now the game is on Steam. What? So the lesson is that you can only do ambitious projects if you're responsible with your scoping. I'm a dummy and I should ask for help. And to work with the tools you have at hand. Observation. Coding is learning the same lessons over and over again. In 2017, I said, hey, I want to make a musical adventure game. And my friend, a musician named Gavin Clemens, said, oh, I'm down. I said, can you write a soundtrack? He said, how many songs? I said, at least 12. And time passed, and we both realized we're college students, we haven't done shit. This project has not gotten off the ground. So the lesson is that you can only do ambitious projects if you're responsible with scoping. And so moving on, I thought I could make things easier on myself if I just learn Unity and use Unity so I don't have to build my own tools from scratch. And I could do things really fast, and I learned that you need to use the right tools for the job. I realized I hated Unity. A local friend of mine named Josh Sutphin started making an open source Twine-like engine that was also really suited for the kind of narrative game that I wanted to make, and I fell in love with that, but a lot of work needed to be done on it, so I realized that I could combine it with another HTML library called Phaser, and then I would have the right tools for the job. That was a lot of work. Web development sucks. I still never started working on the game, and I'm a failure. The lesson is that you have to be responsible with your scoping, and that web development sucks. Coding is the process of learning the same things over and over again. In 2018, I saw an open source project called Ink, which is a lot like the library I had been trying to make with my friend Josh. And the company Inkle used it to make their games, and have already shipped several games with it that were successful. So I thought, wow, I'm learning the lesson over again that maybe I don't have to make my own engine. Ambitious projects are only possible if you're responsible with your scoping, and you should find the right tools for the job. And then I saw that Inkle made a Unity plugin to make it really easy to slot ink into games with like full graphical capabilities, but I hated Unity. There's a JavaScript port of Ink, and I thought, okay, I'll integrate that with an HTML5 game engine. And then I had a familiar feeling and thought, okay, no. Then I learned about another open source engine called Godot, and I thought, wow, maybe I'll use that and it'll be perfect. And what happens next? I have some really good predictions about what happens next. All of them involve I am a dummy. That is a recurring lesson. And so I even gave a talk to other developers in Utah where I was like, just use Unity. I'm still learning that. Okay, so I thought, can I streamline the process of learning the same lessons over and over again so it doesn't take me years to learn this again? I was talking to Jordan about how when you are learning to drive or fly a plane, they teach you to monitor all the gauges in a systematic way, going in a circle around your attention and making sure everything's in order. And so I thought, I'll make a circle like that of conceptual lessons. And I haven't figured out what it says yet. That's my talk. See you next week.